What's up, guys? It's JDew and Jonah with another America, ladies and gents, podcast episode here. We want to talk to you a little bit about what the cash compound is all about, helping you increase your wealth and grow your cash flow. We want to help you crack that code. We're not going to lock our money up. We're not going to give it to other people. You're not going to give it to us. We want to let you know that. And you are not going to take any risks with your money. So let's get right into it. Today is actually November the 3rd. Yep. It is a presidential election. So it's a national election. We got local things, state things, county things going on. Yep. And we voted. So we're here to do the obligatory podcast episode around Election Day. So Here's the question. Let's jump right into it. Jonah, who'd you vote for?
Okay, that's a little front facing.
We jumped in.
That's fine.
That's what the people want to know.
I voted for the best candidate. The best one is who I put my vote down for.
Okay.
And then I went to the next page, and there was only one candidate to choose from for Soil and Water Commission.
So that's obviously the best one.
So I was going to write in somebody, but I was like, I don't know anyone else to write in. So I picked the best candidate for that one too, the only one there.
Okay. All right. So here's what we're really talking about is voting on yourself.
Yep.
So what we're here to chat about is who's in charge and in control when you think about your life and your money. That's really what it is. So if I just ask you that right straight up, what do you say?
Sure. Who's in charge? So, I mean, realistically, we want to be in charge, right? I want to be in charge of my money, my finances. If it's going up, if it's going down, I want it to be me. A lot of people put a lot of faith, trust, belief in the other folks, the government, the system, the who's in charge, who's running the office, and that kind of dictates their decision making. That dictates where they're putting money. That dictates if we're going to have lots for retirement or a little for retirement. And we just don't think it should be that way. We think you should put all the emphasis on yourself. Like one of our friends says, you yourself are your greatest asset, right? And so we believe that too. And we think it's about you. It's about a mindset change. It's about a work ethic. It's about making sure that you've got the right vehicles in place in your hands to be able to move forward, to be able to maximize on what you can do with your own life and your own finances.
So is it possible for anybody in America to become wealthy?
Any single person. Is it possible? Absolutely.
You say yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, let's jump in and take it back to your story.
Okay.
So I want you to talk a little bit, and I'm going to ask some questions, and I'll just help you field these ideas, I think.
Okay.
So about 6 years ago at this point, no.
Sounds right.
5 years ago, maybe around 5 years ago, you got introduced to the idea of what we do. Banking, infinite banking, banking on yourself, right? Using a strategic cash flow system of dividend paying whole life insurance as your own money making machine.
Right.
Now, where were you before this mentally and financially?
Sure. So mentally, before I got introduced, I was using all of the government sponsored plans, pretty much all of them. If I heard about it or read about it or saw it, I thought to myself, this is a great idea. I should be putting money in there. So I'm talking about the 401k.
Okay.
I'm going, well, if that's how you do retirement, that's where I need to put money.
So you had you worked a job.
Yep. And that job was matching the 401k.
Okay.
So I'm thinking if they're matching and this is where they're telling me to put money, that's where I should be putting money. Right.
And how long did you know this person who told you this in HR?
Since, I got hired there.
Okay.
When they told me that, right?
Yep.
So, by the time you have to make the election, it's only like 30 days that you've been working there, I think, before you have to make all of it. But anyway, they told me that I should be putting money there, so I was. And again, I had heard those things from different influences in my life and, I don't know, commercials. I mean, anything. I mean, right? I mean, it's all... That's what you're hearing. That's what you're taught. That's what your friends are doing. That's what your peers are doing. So that's what I was doing. So I'm contributing money to like literally all of them. Like literally everything you can think of is where I was putting money. So I'm talking about 401k. I'm talking about I had to roll that over at one point because I switched jobs. So now I've got an IRA that's getting money too.
Okay.
I'm putting it in both because it was earning different and it was invested in a different like a
set of funds.
Yeah, like a set of funds. I'm putting money in both of those. I'm doing what else am I doing? I'm doing HSAs. I'm trying to max that out. I'm doing 529s. I'm trying to put money there. Well, not a 529 at that point, but I knew about 529s. I had it on my radar.
Right.
Like the second
Because your job was at a bank.
Yep.
So you knew about certain things, even if you weren't using them, because you worked at a bank.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So I knew about them all, and I'm like literally have it set up to be contributing to them all. So that's where I was like financially. At the same time, I had lots of outstanding third-party debt. I mean,
so what type of debts were you working with at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I had a credit card or two. I owed the dentist. I owed the dentist like $5,000. I remember when I started, that was like a big one for me. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get out of that.
I also, just for the record, want to say that when I had to go to the dentist 2 or 3 years before you had to go to the dentist, you laughed at me because I told you how bad it was, how much it hurt, how expensive it was. You laughed at me. And then you ended up with an actual bill several years later, several $1,000s.
That is true.
That's what you get.
Terrible. So I had the dentist. I had a few credit cards. I had student loans.
Yeah.
I had
car?
No car. I had paid for my car outright. Okay. I had bought that with cash. I didn't have a house at that time. So that might have been it.
Okay.
A few credit cards, dentist, and then the student loans.
So you're single. You're single 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So around that time, you get introduced to banking. So how did that go down, and how did you perceive it to be? Because a lot of people see what we do, and if they're not explained they're not educated well on what we do, then they wonder if it's even legal.
Sure.
Because it's like so good and it's not even going to be taxable. I mean, it really is tax deferred, but we teach people how to do it tax free because of loans.
Yep.
Okay. So they think it's not even real, or how come I haven't heard about it? Just what were some of your initial thoughts about potentially doing this?
Sure. So again, you got to remember where I was. I'm single. I work at a bank. That's literally what I do. I was doing at the time in the bank. It wasn't just like a normal teller job. I was doing literally escalation support for like our customer service team, basically.
Oh, so you're Karen. You're the manager Karens want to speak to.
Exactly.
Escalation support.
Right. So it's after you are yelling at the first person, and then you come to me.
All right.
So I know a thing or two about the bank. In fact, I did pretty well at that right away. That I'm now training the new people.
I remember.
And do that.
Okay.
So I'm just doing well. So I knew a thing or two. Okay. At the same time, I did not like my job at the bank. So what I wanted to do is actually get into insurance. Is what I wanted. And I wanted to get into life insurance, but I didn't know exactly how to get into life insurance. So I was making a transition at the time basically to property and casualty insurance. So you got to understand just where I was.
Okay.
So when I saw the information, the first thing basically was confusion, I think, like the normal person. Like, this sounds great. What in the world is happening? Because how can that be possible? Right? I just didn't what is happening?
Okay.
It's one of those things like, hey, go back through it. And I know what you said. I can repeat back to you what you said. Explain what you said, because how? Like, that's where I was when I saw it. So, but initially I realized, like, oh, if this is exactly what's happening, if this is true about what's happening, like, I should be doing that. Right. So we actually saw it at the same time.
Right.
We were on the same, live presentation, Zoom. Zoom is today, but it probably was a Skype.
I think it was,
WebEx.
Yeah. Oh man, what was it called?
I remember the old ones. Uvu. You remember that one?
Sure, I do.
I don't, but other than that, I don't remember any others.
I'll think of it in a second
now.
while we talk.
It's Zoom now. Anyway, it was like a Zoom call, but it wasn't Zoom back then. It was something else.
We have it recorded.
Yeah, we should look at it.
And when we went through it, what was on your mind? I'm the one who kind of introduced you into
2.5 hours.
Hey, we need to talk to this guy.
Yep.
And neither of us knew who it was.
Yep.
And
did not relate to him at all.
Correct. I mean, and as I tell people all the time, that I generally drag you into some things so I can bounce it off of you and go, yeah, what did they just say? Because I think it sounds great, but what'd you hear?
Sure.
What'd you think?
Right. So immediately I liked it. Immediately, like, okay, it seems possible. Of the things that I knew coming in,
right.
This seems possible.
I know a few things about I know enough about banking and insurance to like be dangerous.
Right.
And it sounds good.
Right. So I know a little bit. They just gave me a lot. My little bit matched with their lot made sense. Like, okay, I followed that a little bit, so it looks good. So basically, long story short, we jumped in and got started right there with our first banking policy.
So from the time you first heard about what was possible and starting, help some folks understand the time. Do you remember? Yeah. How long did it take?
Probably a little while. you'll have to forgive me. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think we probably watched that presentation maybe in like a January or something, because I think we tried to start at the same time. And I know your first policy started in March.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay,
March.
cool.
It was the second week of March.
Yeah. So your first policy starts in March. So we watch in January. We like want to get started. Let's do it. We didn't even know how to do it. Remember, we were like, what happens?
Yeah, at the end of a presentation, a demonstration of the numbers and all that, we asked, like, so are we allowed to do this?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, for me personally, and the number that I chose to start with, I was afraid I was going to get laughed at. Like, I thought the people, because the people we knew about who were doing this just had a lot more cash than we were able to get to at the time. So I thought, I have to act like, you know what I'm saying? Like I have
a little bit more than I got.
Right. Yeah. I have to act like, I have other money, but I'm not sure. So I'm wondering, would it be okay to start with this amount?
I think that if my very first policy was $5,000, that's what I chose.
Okay.
For all year. I know some people choose that, per month, and that's awesome, but I didn't have that much. So I chose $5,000 all year. We saw it in January. We go through underwriting. We do all the health stuff. You get started in March.
Yep.
I did not get started till May. And the reason I didn't get started till May, a little information for you if you care, is just because I had a speeding ticket that I got in college. So this is years prior. Got in college in a different state. And I didn't pay it because it was in a different state and I'm in college and I forgot.
Sure,
like I didn't, like I didn't remember that I had gotten it. And so because I didn't pay it, I didn't show up to court, it's in a different state. So obviously I didn't go back for court, whatever. They upgraded this ticket to reckless driving and put a whole bunch of points on my license. So when one of the insurance companies saw that, they didn't want to give me a policy because they were like, you're dangerous and all that. And so it's a crazy story. I mean, I got called back. Again, we're setting policies up for banking, and they got to call me and go, hey, do you know that you have a reckless driving ticket? And I'm going, no, I don't. You must be looking at somebody else. I've literally never had a reckless driving ticket in my life. Like, what are you talking about? And so, they told me that I got to go do all this research and figure out that I forget what county it is. I used to know. It's like Jefferson County, Georgia, back in December of this year. 12 over, upgrade, and I was like, I can't believe it. Anyway, that was a tangent. But anyway, I had to do a different company. Same policy, new company. That happens sometimes. But anyway, that's why it took me an extra month, basically, because I had gone all the way through underwriting before they said, we don't want to give them a policy. So same thing, different company. Didn't have to redo all of it, but some of it I had to redo. Now I've got a new company, so my first policy started in May.
Okay, so let's move on and move forward then. Since that time, what have you learned? Well, when you started, did you know everything you needed to know?
Yeah, so the answer to that is absolutely not. I even remember when we got started, we had our illustrations. We had them sent to us, or maybe we printed them out, and we were looking at some of the numbers and trying to do our own math and figure out how the cash grows and what's happening. And we were like, we're millionaires tomorrow. You remember? We were like, we're going to have so much. This is crazy. How does this work? And we were just completely wrong and off, but we were excited about getting started, about banking on ourselves. And we also had no idea about the banking process. Remember? I remember. We had no idea. So the banking process, how you actually use your policy, actually makes the policy grow. We had no clue when we started. So we weren't doing that at all.
Right. So we made mistakes. We made mistakes in our thinking, which made mistakes in our actions about growing our policy. So we've made the mistakes that we try to help people understand, like, hey, you should take your loans to use them for financing. That's why we try to explain that. Right. That's important. 1, you should take them. 2, you should finance with them, not just take the money and go to the store.
Yep.
And 3, you should pay them back. 4, with interest.
Yep.
That was...
Yeah, we were
honestly lost. The whole thing you're supposed to do, we were lost on that.
Yeah, we were like, it's almost like when you're super excited about something, so you listen to the first, sentence, and you get super excited, so you don't listen to the rest, and then you get started, and you're like, I remember they said this. That first part was good. And you
guarantee growth, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, you just don't pay attention. So that was us. We were both there. We were doing it at each other's house, or whatever, looking at the numbers, circling numbers, writing numbers down. This is crazy. But we didn't understand the process.
Right.
So then we learned the process. Basically, we did it on our own research, videos.
Yep. So we're talking about voting on yourself here. So when you learn the step from the start of step 1, I don't know, but I'm excited and I'm going to do it.
Yep.
To now, you voted on yourself when it came to education, when it came to learning. So what would you suggest what people do?
Sure. Honestly,
to make sure they understand how to
that
grow their
answer is
wealth?
all of the above. Watch their stuff.
And a lot of that stuff
examples.
is a lot more complicated and technically jargonistic than ours.
It took us a long time to actually get to the understanding point because honestly, we didn't have any resources.
We had no background in knowing this. You knew more from jobs you'd worked. And these are just words that I could pronounce if I looked at them, but I had to highlight the bold print and then go somewhere else to figure out what it was.
I mean, we used to watch videos a bunch of times, right? I mean, and like, I remember one of the examples that we like to use is our car example where we purchased a car.
Right.
I remember looking at that and literally looking year by year and asking that same question. What is happening? Like, how? What is happening? What is going on? And I remember just being lost. And so going through like little by little, step by step, inch by inch, and just learning, like literally voting on yourself, like you're saying, learning, taking the time, doing the research, doing the due diligence, watching the video, whatever it might be, listening to the book, listening to the podcast, whatever it might be.
Right, and agreed. Like there's no end to learning.
Right.
So you need to utilize your own brain. That's why you're in control. So you can make these things work. You can make them grow. It can be better than the illustrations ever show off, but you have to use your brain. Right. And sometimes you have to use your imagination because we're talking about your future numbers, your future wealth, and but we're stuck with today.
Sure.
So we have to think about how you use this in the future.
Yep. I'll give you a perfect example. One of the books that I had read when we had first started, I guess I didn't even realize this till recently. You guys have to understand, this is like 2 weeks ago. I didn't even realize that I was reading a certain version of the book. It was like, like edition 2 or whatever. Like that's the book I had, edition 2. So I've read edition 2 4 times, right? I've read edition 2. I didn't even realize that edition 3 had an extra chapter that edition 2 doesn't have. I didn't know that was a thing. I don't know, maybe I was lost or whatever. Who knew you can make a new edition and add stuff to the book?
Oh, well,
I didn't know that.
Sure. There's a lot of things personally about the way we grew up, I think, that answers questions. Honestly, about the fact that I got to the place where I was an adult and I realized I didn't know that's how things worked.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. So I just recently realized there's a new edition that's got a new chapter in it. So I had to go and read the new chapter. I was like, I've literally read this book. I know pretty much everything that's happened in this book. I can
Which book
recite
are you
the
talking
numbers.
about?
So you have to forgive me. I think I'm getting.
We're talking about something with banking, or we're talking about like Harry Potter?
No, with banking. I was getting confused on which book it was, but as soon as you asked me, I remembered. It's The Case for IBC. The Case for IBC's actually got a different version, and the new version has a new chapter. And I was like,
that's what they do. Correct.
Right. I had no idea. Anyway, so I had to go. So that's what you're just talking about. Learning doesn't stop. I had to go and read the new chapter. Like, how am I going to read this book and say I've read this book and they have they have a new version I haven't read.
Right.
So I feel like that's I don't know. Anyway, that was just keep learning and keep going through. So when you're talking about voting on yourself, I mean, for me, it's just like understanding that if you really understand what we're doing, understand banking, understand the guarantees in it, understand how to use it, understand how to get your cash value to grow, to me, there's a lot of outside influence that just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter to me. I know the steps now. It took me a while to get here, but I'm here now. So I know the steps now in order to increase cash value, in order to increase my cash growth, my cash accumulation, my net worth. I know how to do it. And because a lot of these outside influences that happen in a lot of these other programs and a lot of these other investments and a lot of these other plans and a lot of these other whatever don't happen here, that stuff just, it's almost just kind of in one ear and out the other. It just flies by. It doesn't even, it doesn't even affect me, right? Because I'm just so focused on what I know, and like they call it, banking on yourself, voting on yourself, like making sure that I am in control of where I'm headed. And what's going to happen to me when I get, whatever, when I need to purchase something, when I want to retire, when I need to send money to the kid, when I need to do something, like I'm just making sure that I'm getting there, doing the steps that I know that are going to work.
So you feel more you think you and others can feel a lot more confident about their money as they move throughout life, just understanding what we teach here.
That's right. Well, what I'm saying is before I got started with banking, I had all these different avenues. It's like, a computer screen with 10 windows open, right? Got my 401k window, my IRA window, my this window, my that window, my investment window, I need to do stocks, right? Now I need to do stocks. That's where people are making money at my stock window. It's like all these different windows open, and all the windows are literally halfway open. Like you can, put money in the windowsill. You can lose some of the money, right? Well, now it's like I've got this one main window where I'm putting all my energy and effort, which answers all of those other questions for me. So that's where my focus went. It's really easy. I mean, I'll be honest. I was contributing money to a plan, a 401k, whatever. I'm putting money there, an IRA, whatever. I know I picked a low risk, medium risk thing. That's all that I know. That's literally it. I don't know anything else. I'm just doing it because they told me to do it. I know I can lose money. I know I can earn money. Every time I get the statement, it doesn't look like it's going up very much. If anything, I'm barely looking at that. That's all I knew, right? But now it's like I'm so focused because it's only one thing to be focused on. It's just easier. It's just easier. And the one thing is better than all the other things, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion. And so that's what I'm focused on. And because I'm focused on it, I know the way that it works. And it's really easy now to have a central foundation and then be able to branch off to do this, branch off to that. What I want to do, because I've got that foundation.
But you've got the roots and the tree, and you branch when and if you want to.
Exactly.
Because you got the right foundation in the middle.
Right.
So when our listeners, most of which will probably hear this for the first time, between Election Day, November 3rd, and our, presidential national situation that's going to be probably very crazy when folks look at this and they're trying to figure out who's in charge and who's not, who knows how to work over the course of the next couple of months. When you think about what happens with lawmakers and the laws that they make regarding your income, your taxation, and your treatment of money, their treatment of money, investments, are you nervous? Does it matter who's in office? How important is that stuff to your plan and the people's plan who decide to do banking?
Yeah, it's not nervous. I'm not nervous, and it doesn't make a difference to me, really. Now, again, it does make a difference in policy and some of the things that I care about personally for our country and things like that. But as far as where my money is it safe? Is it secure? Am I going to lose it? Are they going to change the tax code? Are they going to tax more? Are they going to tax more stuff? Are they going to limit me more? Are they going to have penalties on this? Are they going to reduce the penalties? Are they going to up the limit? All that stuff is not irrelevant to me. Irrelevant. Right? You got to understand. I even heard something recently where they were talking about just how much money of Americans in general is locked into qualified plans. Like how much actual money was there of everyone in the country locked in the qualified plans. And the number was astronomical. It was crazy big. And I was like, it makes sense. That's where they've been telling everybody to put their money. So that's where it is. And then that person asked the simple question, if that's where all the money is, and they compared it to all these other places America had money, if that's where all the money is, what do you think is going to happen if the country gets in trouble? And it was like, that's where all the money is. So they're going to change the penalty on that so they can have more of it. And I was like, or change the taxes on that. I was like, wow, that is crazy. That makes perfect sense, So, all those other things, those little nuances that lots of people get worried about, lots of people are concerned about, those are just like in one ear and out the other because it just doesn't impact my financial picture. It just doesn't impact it. Again, it impacts it a little, but just doesn't impact it like most people think it's going to impact it. So for me, it's just kind of irrelevant.
How does your viewpoint change and around your family? You have an immediate family now.
Yep.
And you have a wife and 2 children since you've started this plan. So what are you trying to transfer about what you think and know about money? Is this something that really is satisfying in your marriage relationship? Is it something you can transfer into the next generation, or is it just you?
Sure. So the first option. So one of the things that's important for me is most people realize this with their significant other. When you get excited about something, you want to share, right? So again, in the 6 years that I've been doing this, I've been excited about it basically for 6 years. So my spouse knows all about what we're doing, knows exactly how to do it just in case something were to happen to me. Not only that, but if something were to happen to me, she'll get way more money because of the death benefit attached to these policies than Originally I had planned for her, right? If you're using the old way of thinking, the government sponsored way of thinking, they're going to tell you to go get, a policy, a term insurance policy for whatever dollar amount to replace income for your spouse, right? That's all you do. You never put more there. Why? Right? But in banking, all of a sudden, my death benefit that's going to go to my family is super big, right? Just bigger than I would have ever bought, because of all the policies we have, and we're banking with them, buying things right now. But if something were to happen to me, my family's actually better off than they were previously, right? Better off.
Yeah.
Again, all these policies as well, we can transfer ownership to the kids on maybe a few policies or one policy when they get of age. So they have one that's actually up and running, working. They can see how to use it. We also have policies on the kids, so therefore we can use those to purchase and pay for things that the kids need, right? My son is born in December, right before Christmas, 5 days before Christmas. So when we started his policy, we decided that we were going to use that for Christmas every year, right? So, I'm a normal person, so 5 years from now, 6 years from now, when he's, a little older and he goes, how do we know how much we can spend on Christmas gifts, right? And I want to buy my friend's stuff and my sister's stuff, right? It's like a good stepping stone to be able to teach him where we're getting money from and how it works and where he's going to be putting his allowance or the money he's making from his first job or whatever, right? You've got to teach it to them along the way so they know exactly what you're doing and how to pass it to the next generation for me, but also how he can keep it going and how he can bless his family and friends and with it as well.
So you mentioned debt that you had when you first started this. Sure. So talk about third-party debt, your relationship to the debt. You bought a house since that time. Yeah. How does your financial picture of all the other real stuff people are dealing with actually connect to your banking system?
Yeah, so that's actually a huge topic, because people understand where I was when I first saw this banking concept. When I first got my first policy started, I was single. I was living in an apartment with a roommate. We talked about the debts, a few credit cards, dentist, school, basically is what I had. Fast forward now, I'm married. I own a house. I'm with 2 children. So things have changed. Things have happened. I do not drive the same car I was driving then, right? I have a spouse now, so she needed a car, right? We bought a house. We had 2 babies. We got married. We did an engagement. We did a wedding. We did a honeymoon.
Lots of financial things.
Finances happened, right? And we needed money for those finances. We had banking policies that I had started before all this happened. I was banking with those policies, like we just talked about, learning how to use them, which means I was generating cash value in my policies. So when I have to pay for an engagement ring, well, where do I take the money from? And this banking policy I've been saving up for, was that my original plan of the banking policy? No, because I got it when I was single and I wasn't thinking that. But is that what the banking policy was used for? Absolutely. So banking policies in my life have funded a crazy amount of things, actually, in the last 5 years, 6 years.
Lots of changes.
Lots of things. I mean, a trip. We did an engagement trip, actually, for me and my spouse. A trip, a ring, a wedding, a honeymoon, a baby, a second baby, a new car. And for me, a new car for her, a house payment, like everything.
A washing machine.
Everything, right? Everything, because that's where I decided to focus and put my money, just kind of bank on myself, like it's called sometimes. And that's where I focus. And so, it's the same thing now. Like now, if something comes up, well, where am I getting the money from? It's coming from a banking policy every single time. That's what got me here. Why would I abandon that now that I'm here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And now you've started to go into investments.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. So what type of investments and what style, now that you're not just worried about, getting out of the hole?
Sure.
What type of things, can you maybe suggest other people think about to help them when they're thinking about, how do I take control and take charge?
Yeah. So remember, I told you I was focused. So like we're talking about 5 or 6 years before I did my first investment here, basically. But again, that's my foundation, my banking policies focus. And now I'm deciding to branch off. So I've personally decided to branch off in like private lending. That's what I decided I wanted to do. I could have chosen anything. You can choose anything that you're familiar with, that you're already doing, whatever you want. But that's what I've decided to branch off to. is private lending. And who knows, maybe I love it here and I stay here forever, or maybe I decide, I didn't love that very much. I want to do something else. But just understand that my foundation is the banking policy. Like, that's super important. So it's not that I have to do private lending or something else. It's that I can do both, banking first, and now I'm doing private lending, right? So that's super important as well. Most people don't realize that. It's not an or situation.
Either or situation.
It's not an either or. It's a both and.
Yeah.
Right. And so you just have to, and a lot of people don't start there. So don't get upset if you're not starting there. I didn't start there either. I literally had to pay off the dentist. Like, not a joke. I owed them, I think it was like $178 a month or something. I owed them, and I had like a $5,000 note. And a reminder, I'm single. I live in an apartment. I had to pay the dentist. That's where I started, with a dentist payment, But that's just not where I am.
But look at this man now.
Well,
give him a smile.
But that's just not where I am now.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, I think we're going to kind of wrap things up. We appreciate you talking about that. And ladies and gentlemen, I think many of the things that we talked about on this particular episode are going to help you a lot if you follow up with the course called Pay Yourself First.
Yep.
So you said that your kind of foundation, your roots were grounded right here in banking. That is really going to help and visualize for you in a very short sequence of steps through that course, Pay Yourself First. So if you look at that, it's all about getting buckets. So if you understand that from a visual perspective, it's something we did not have when we first started this 6 years ago. We got taught a lot of jargon. We looked a lot of places. They were the right places in 99% of cases, because we really were blessed to get the information correct at the beginning. It was just over our heads. But we've broken it down for you in a lot of ways through that course. So jump into that particular course, especially if you've already been to one of our other courses. You're going to want to start simple, just to understand what's going on and what you can make go on, because you have the control. So thanks for jumping in with us. And remember, it does not matter who's on Capitol Hill or who's in Washington. You have the control, and you can be empowered to take back your financial life and to crack that code to cash flow.